Hi knitting friends, Shaina Bilow here. In today's video, I'm going to demonstrate how to begin working continental knitting. Once you have your stitches here on the needle, the first thing we're going to focus on for continental knitting is how you hold the yarn. So the yarn will be held in the left hand. There are a few ways that you can hold the yarn. One of the ways, that's the easiest, is to wrap your fingers through the yarn like this. Weave the yarn through your fingers, leaving about an inch, inch and a half here. 4 centimeters or so right there. That's one method where, again, the yarn is wrapped or woven through the fingers. If you want a little bit more of a hold, you can wrap again around your index finger like this, but your index finger is the closest to the first stitch on the needle and closest to the needle tip. My personal favorite way to hold is to take my left hand behind the yarn, and I begin with my pinky right here at the top of the work, close to the top of the needle, and I wrap the yarn over my pinky, and then I bring the yarn up to my index finger, and you'll notice I grab the yarn here with my 3 fingers and put my index finger either behind, is what I do, but the traditional continental hold would be putting the index finger in front like so. Okay, so the first step for continental knitting is making sure you have a nice grip on your yarn. Some people do just drape the yarn over their index finger and carry on, but there's not a lot of control there. So I, again, like to wrap around my pinky and then over my index finger. And again, the yarn can be over the front of the index or over the back of the index finger. The traditional method is over the front. So I'll show with that method now. Once you have a comfortable hold on the yarn, and this will shift as you are working more and more with your continental knitting, it will change, and that's okay. But just start off with something that feels comfortable, where you've got a nice grip on the yarn, and you want to make sure that you've got a little bit of tension on the yarn. I don't want that yarn to be able to go flying. I want to have some control over it as I'm knitting. Okay, so the needles are going to start out for the knit stitch both pointing up, and I'm going to insert my right hand needle up into the stitch that's on the left hand needle. So when I say go into the stitch, what that means is we're going into this loop right here, the loop that's wrapped around the needle. So both of my needles are now inside of that stitch. The stitch was already on the left hand needle. Now my right hand needle is inside of that stitch as well. I'm going to take my right hand needle and come behind the yarn that is wrapped over my index finger. So I'm going to show you that again. We're in the stitch. I'm now coming behind the yarn that's wrapped over my index finger. I'm going to move my right hand index finger over a little bit to help guide the yarn through and come out of that stitch. Once I have my new stitch on my right hand needle, I can take off the stitch that was on the left hand needle. So we only remove these stitches from the left hand needle once we've created a new stitch out of it. So I'm going into the stitch, grabbing the yarn from behind, holding onto it to guide it down, and then discard the old stitch. And as I need more yarn, I wiggle my fingers a little bit to feed myself some more yarn. So I go up into the stitch. So my needles are actually sort of perpendicular to one another. And then I just jump behind the yarn with my needle so that I can guide it back down that loop and out. So I'm going into the stitch, grabbing the yarn from behind, and pulling that new stitch through and taking off the old. In, around, out, off. In, around, out, off. And you can use your fingers in lots of different ways here. You'll get more and more comfortable with continental and use your fingers to slide the stitches up as you need them and push them down after you've created new ones. So in, grab. You can use your index finger to help guide that yarn through and off. So as you're coming out of this stitch, you want to make sure that you've only got your new stitch on the right hand needle. You want to make sure that it's a clean exit. So we've only got that one stitch on the needle. We're not accidentally grabbing like this a part of the stitch that we were working out of here. So again, we've got this stitch right here. We're going into it, creating a new stitch, and then letting the old stitch off the needle. Every so often I feel like I need to readjust my hand position and my hold on the yarn. That's okay. Get comfortable. Be patient with yourself. You're going to do great. Just be patient. All right, so we're going to go in the stitch, come from behind the yarn, pull that yarn through and off. So sometimes I like to liken this right hand needle to my hand. And if I were to go to somebody's house and put my arm around their shoulder and bring them in towards me for a hug, I would go into the house, come here friend, take that arm, pull the stitch through, let's go outside for a walk. That's sort of my analogy to how this needle operates. You're coming behind that yarn to pull it back outside. So in the house, bring the friend out, and then move along to the neighbor's house to bring the next friend outside. We're going to have a big party. That is how you work Continental Knit Stitch. In the next video that's linked below, you can find the Continental Purl Stitch. Happy knitting!